Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Engineering Talent for the Future. It's great to have you in the call today. I'm David Aaron, the Marketing Manager for Graduate Apprenticeships at Heriot-Watt. And today my colleagues, Dan O'Gorman, Business Relationship Manager, and Odin Duplessis-Love, who's the Programme Director, are going to share an overview of graduate apprenticeships and specifically our engineering design and manufacture programme. We're also absolutely delighted to welcome Kelly Fraser and Sarah Stark from our employer partner Diageo. Kelly and Sarah will do a bit of a Q&A and will share their insight and experience of graduate apprenticeships at the company. Now, before we get underway, I'll just cover off some quick housekeeping. If you can keep your mics and cameras off during the presentations, that would be great. There will be the opportunity to ask questions at the end, and you can either use the chat function or ask the question out loud. And finally, as you'll have noticed, we are recording today's session. So without any further ado, I am going to hand over to Dan.
Thanks, David. Much appreciated. Afternoon, everyone. As David said, I'm one of the business relationship managers within the graduate apprenticeship team. So my role is kind of engaging with employer partners like Diageo, who I work very closely with, and then equally engaging with new potential employer partners that the university doesn't currently work with. So what I'll take you through just now is a brief overview of what graduate apprenticeships are and how we deliver them at Heriot-Watt. And then I will hand over to Odin to cover the program content in some more detail there. So next slide, please, David. Thank you. So graduate apprenticeships, if you're not familiar with them, they are work-based learning full honours level degrees. So they are worth the same as a traditional undergraduate degree that you might study, or you might complete rather by studying 5 days a week. But the difference with a graduate apprenticeship is that the candidates are working 4 days a week in a industry relevant role for an employer, and then they're studying 1 day a week with us at Heriot-Watt towards their degree. So it's really an opportunity for those candidates to earn while they're learning, so they can build up their CV, they can develop all of that work experience and that industry relevant experience, but equally they can earn a full-time salary and still achieve a full honours level degree that then will allow them to go and progress through their career and give them the kind of relevant skills that they need in order to do that. They are fully funded from a tuition fees perspective, and I'll come on to the funding in a bit more detail in a later slide. And they are part of the wider apprenticeship family in Scotland. So you might be more familiar with foundation apprenticeships that candidates can complete through school, or modern apprenticeships that candidates might do at college level as well. This is exactly the same premise, it's just that it's applied at degree level as opposed to those other levels there. They are open to both new and existing employees, so businesses like Diageo can use these apprenticeships to recruit new talent into the business. Equally, they can use them to either upskill or even reskill existing talent within the business. And then in terms of support, again, I'll come on to this on another slide, but the apprentices do get assigned both a workplace mentor and a personal tutor. Next slide. Thanks, David. So in terms of how we deliver them at Heriot-Watt, we use the day release model. So it's 1 day a week that the apprentices are attending university. Odin might touch on this in a bit more detail, but for the engineering design and manufacture program, we deliver in what's called a high flex fashion. So essentially candidates have the choice week to week whether they attend live in-person sessions or whether they attend virtually and remotely. So it's 1 day a week that the candidate is attending university. Depending on the time of year, they'll either be attending teaching, so that might be seminars, workshops, lectures, or they'll be completing work-based learning and university-based assignments. So it might be more of a write-up day. And again, that will depend on the time of year and what assignments they still have left to do. As I mentioned earlier, they get quite a lot of support throughout the process. So they'll have a work-based mentor. So that will be an individual from their employer. That doesn't have to be a subject matter expert in that particular degree program. It just needs to be someone that works closely with the apprentice, really understands what they're trying to achieve in their role, and can provide that mentoring support. Heriot-Watt actually provide mentor training at the start of each academic year, and that's all recorded as well. So if the mentor changes at any point, then those materials can be shared. We've equally got a work-based mentor community of practice. So this is an opportunity for mentors to come together from different businesses and share best practices, really, what's worked well for them, what's maybe been a challenge for them, and how have they overcome it. So there's a lot of support in place there for mentors. They'll equally then get a personal tutor, so that'll be an academic from the degree program that they're studying on, and that individual is responsible for keeping the apprentice on track academically. And really, the foundation of the apprenticeship is the individual learning agreement meeting. So that's the meeting that takes place on a semesterly basis between work-based mentor, personal tutor, and the apprentice. And that really provides an opportunity to kind of forward plan what's coming up in the workplace, what's coming up in the program, what learning outcomes does the apprentice need to meet, where's their good alignment, where are they actually already doing activities in the workplace that would align with those learning outcomes, and then where are their gaps and how can they be addressed. So whether it's the opportunity for the apprentice to work elsewhere within the business for a period of time to meet that learning criteria, or whether, as can sometimes happen, even if we just need to set a theoretical example. It's 3 semesters every academic year, so it's about 42 weeks of the year that they'll have that release day. And as I mentioned, it is a 4-year programme of study, so it's no longer than your traditional Scottish undergraduate degree. We do have the option to take candidates direct into year 2 and year 3, but this would very much depend on their existing qualifications and prior work experience. Next slide. Thanks, David. So funding, as I said, fully funded from a tuition fees perspective. It doesn't cost the employer anything to put the candidate through the apprenticeship programme. So the only cost really is the cost of employment, so your salary and your associated employment costs. The candidate doesn't come out with any student debt, so again, it doesn't cost them anything to go through it. There are some funding eligibility criteria. Candidates need to be 16 plus, living and working in Scotland, and either a UK national or have pre-settled or settled status to live and work in the UK. And then there's the academic entry criteria that I mentioned previously, again, sort of Scottish Highers, HNCs, HNDs. But as long as candidates meet these requirements, they'll be eligible to access funding and join the programme. From a recruitment perspective, Heriot-Watt do support our employer partners with that piece as well. Ultimately, for any employer, you can recruit however you tend to recruit for any given role within the business, that they're ultimately your employee. We don't get involved in the final call as to who you decide to hire. But what we do provide is support at the job ad stage in terms of scoping it, ensuring there's alignment between the role and the programme, and providing information about the university and the degree programme. We can provide support at the kind of visibility stage as well, so we can help you get the role on apprenticeships.scot, which is your central website for all apprenticeship vacancies across Scotland, and equally we can share that across our social channels. And we can also provide support at the shortlisting stage, just in terms of checking that candidates are eligible for entry onto the programme, and making sure that you're not taking anyone to interview that wouldn't get onto the programme. And then last point from me, really these are kind of the main focuses for businesses in terms of utilising the graduate apprenticeship scheme. As I mentioned earlier, if it's existing employees, you can upskill them, help them on that progression pathway, or even reskill them if they're looking for that change of career path. Very good retention tool, whether that's recruiting new individuals in and keeping them within the business, or using them to retain those individuals that, again, are looking to progress and maybe looking for that next step. Over to you, Odin.
Well, thanks very much, Daniel, for introducing the GA degree. So I just wanted to say a little bit about the degree and also Heriot-Watt. We've got quite a sort of long-standing tradition of teaching apprentices and within the mechanical engineering sort of space. In fact, it goes back as far as 1821, so just over 200 years. And yet, you know, we're still doing very, very well in league tables, depending on which league table you look at. Of course, there's some variation, but we are generally considered quite high up, first in Scotland for mechanical engineering and aeronautical engineering, first in Scotland for electrical and electronic as well, according to other metrics. and first in Scotland / second in the UK for graduate employability. So that kind of speaks to the kind of the ethos of the kind of the skill sets of our teaching within the traditional degrees and where graduates end up, essentially. So that transfers over to the GA as well. And recently we're reaccredited with the IET and IMechE. So, we're recognized in various different meaningful metrics there. Okay, next page, please, David. Okay, so what does the program aim to achieve? Well, it has various different set outcomes that we aim to achieve. We have, of course, the expected underpinning engineering technical skills, mathematics, strengths and things like that. That our courses aim to sort of focus on, but we also have wider applications. Of course, these engineers will not, these GAs will not work in a bubble. They have to have the wider context, and so we have various different assessments that which sort of develop their skills as multidisciplinary workers within wider sort of applications of sustainability and cross disciplinary sort of skills. So it's not just strengths, it's not just maths, it's all these things coming together in a real world problem. So that's another aim that we have, which is really flexing and developing these meta engineering skills, problem solving and identifying problems and how to deal with that. And of course, looking at their professional development goals right throughout the 4 years, so that they're actually looking at what sort of skills and roles that they're going to fulfill as they go along. So it's all kind of alive and relevant to the workplace. And lastly, really, we also have quite a high degree of tailored sort of experience and contextualized work-based sort of assessments within the courses, which can be sort of customized. The route through the program can be customized, which I'll say a thing or two in the next few slides. So next slide, please, David. Okay, the main idea of how the assessment is broken up is that we have about 80%, which represents the workplace days of the standard week as workplace learning. So the context and the assessments have to be projects, ideally, that occur in the workplace or are useful to the workplace and essentially are handed in, processed into report form or other relevant forms, and then really given some academic credits for them. The other 20% would be just a syllabus sweep to really capture all of the learning outcomes. And usually the assessments of the 20% take the form of class tests or sort of weekly question sets. Okay, thanks very much. Next one. Next slide. Okay, thanks. So the first year is mainly common across the electronic and mechanical degrees. I lead the mechanical degree, but I can say quite a bit about the electronic degree as well. Really, this is the main structure. The way to read these graphs is that each sort of orange arrow really describes the set of time at which the tail of these courses spans. So you can see the design and manufacture course spans all 3 semesters, and we have those 42 weeks that were mentioned to really conclude all of the assessments to do with that. The teaching mainly happens in the sort of semester that the head of the graphic demonstrates where the sort of course sits. So we have mechanics, we have electrical fundamentals. You could notice that we have quite a wide encounter of different sort of core fields within the first year to really focus on the broad skill set that these GAs will need. We also have common core courses for each year that really are within the context of the university and really kind of try to develop their engineering skill sets. So mathematics, the literacy of engineering, are fairly common and pretty key within the first 2 years. And if you click next, please, David, there'll be an inset graphic which will just show the differences between the two streams. For the mechanical stream, we focus in semester 2 on thermofluid fundamentals, so all the energy and fluid flowing through different systems. But if you're taking the electronic stream, only then, again, will they differ, these two different programs, where the electronic GAs will look at digital logic and systems. And you can see the different sort of sub-topics there for those who are wanting to kind of focus on what the content here of these courses is. Okay, next slide, please. So I'll just take a moment to look at the different years of the different programs. Notice that this is the mechanical slide for second year, concluding with maths for the core skills. All 4 maths are concluded by the end of second year, but we also diversify and make sure that they encounter project and operations management throughout second year and third year. And these 2 optional courses, again, if you click next, you can see the inset key, which tells you what these optional electives are. You can see that they can pick any 2 for either the 4 leading mechanical courses, or a mix and match with up to 1 electronic or electrical course as well. So there's quite a high degree of customization here. If you say, they're interested in some sort of machining process which has a lot of energy, you're considering thermal runaway, for example, or thermal considerations, then you might get them to study materials and thermodynamics, and the assessment for that would be that particular workpiece in assessment form or report form to get those academic credits. Okay, next page, please. So electronic, there's a little bit more of a differentiation between the 2 programs here. You can see they still do operations management, which is pretty key to actually running a successful sort of project within the workplace. They only get 1 option here in second year for electrical. And the inset 2 options will be shown in a moment, so you can see whether they focus on instrumentation and robotics or electromechanical systems. Otherwise, yes, again, the maths underpins everything, and there are fewer options in the electronic streams, but you notice that the assessments for each and every one of these courses is by and large customizable to the workplace. Next page, please. Thank you. So year 3 opens the focus of the sort of the scope of the activities a little bit more in the direction of sustainability. So there are a couple of sustainable courses here. So sustainability project, the mechanical GAs. We also have business awareness and sustainability, again developing those financial skills and sort of awareness of what makes a sustainable device or process. And we also have more options, again, 2 options in semester 1. So materials, again, fluids, things like that, that basically are sequels to the second year electives. We also have the engineering apprenticeship course, which is a unique templated host course in which can be plugged into various different options. They can be courses outside the program in different different departments, and indeed outside of the university as well. If it can be vetted by the lecturers on the program, we can essentially give credits to any particular activity that is run in the workplace as well. Okay, so quite a lot of configurability there. In year 3 electronic, we have the same idea. As you can see, there's a high degree of commonality between the 2 programs. Again, the single option which is available this time will be between electrical machines, signals and systems, and again that engineering apprenticeship template course, into which can be loaded pretty much any relevant activity or other course. So for example, in the previous years, which Diageo may touch on in the next section, they had some brewing and distilling courses that were relevant to their GAs, and they basically furnished that course for those courses. Okay, thanks. Next page, please. By the time the GAs get into their 4th year, they'll have a broad and quite deep skill set, which should be relevant to whatever they're doing in their role in the workplace. At this point in the mechanical degree, we have only a few major courses, but which are really just holders for credit holders for very large individual projects that are happening within the workplace, where the entire life cycle and much of the scope of the project is focusing on the sort of GA's own sort of interests and their own responsibilities. So it's a large amount of responsibility, but equally they bring, almost without exception, very interesting, very productive projects to the sort of fore there. Okay, and finally, similar scene on the electronic side, except that since they've had fewer optionals through the years, they keep more optionals in fourth year. So again, if you load the graphic, please, David, you can see that in addition to their large workplace projects that are individually run, they have various different sort of electives to be run and to essentially furnish their individual projects with hard academic theory to underpin whatever findings they find. Okay, thanks very much. I think that's the end of my section, so I will hand it over to Diageo.
Thanks, Odin.
Thank you.
So,
Dan, so do you want me to just stop sharing the slide and you guys can put your cameras on for the Q&A? How do you want to do that?
Yeah, happy to do that.
You've got them on anyway, so.
Yeah. If you want to pause for that, that sounds good.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, David. So we'll just start a bit of a Q&A with Kelly and Sarah from Diageo. I'll probably jump between you a bit, so I'll just let you know which question's aimed at which person. But just to start off with, just maybe some quick intros, and just if you can tell us a bit about both of your backgrounds at Diageo. So if I can come to you first, Kelly.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So, hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Kelly Fraser. I'm the Technical Manager for Packaging and Automation at Diageo. A bit about my career journey. So my career began in architecture before moving into manufacturing at Diageo. I joined Diageo in 2012 in an operations role, and then in 2014 there was an opportunity for a secondment into engineering, the engineering function within international supply chain and procurement, and that changed my career path. Then I moved into an engineering role permanently when that secondment come to an end, and I retrained as a mechanical engineer, where I completed my BEng honours at Heriot-Watt University in 2022 as part of the Graduate Apprenticeship programme in Engineering Design and Manufacture, while working full-time in my engineering role at Diageo. I've worked closely as part of my development through a number of different functions within our business, so partnering very closely with our brand change, our procurement, finance and operations functions, where I've then had the opportunity to build a really strong end-to-end understanding of packaging and our supply chain and different functions within the business. I now lead the packaging transformation team within global engineering.
Thanks, Kelly. And yeah, probably not where you thought you'd end up, having started out in architecture initially.
No, definitely not, Dan. It was closely linked, but definitely a transition.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kelly. And Sarah, if I can just ask the same of you.
Yeah, hello, I'm Sarah. I'm a graduate apprentice engineer in Kelly's team, the packaging transformation team. I started working for Diageo in 2022 as a site assurance officer, which followed a very varied career. I'm a trained and qualified textile designer. I was a social care worker. I've been a firefighter control. As soon as I started working for Diageo, I felt like I'd found a place where I could really be myself and where I was able to sort of be supported to develop and grow in whichever area that I wanted to within the business. Site assurance was a great introduction. I had physical exposure to our enormous leave-in packaging site. I was involved in security, auditing, assurance and emergency procedures. I walked for miles around the site every day and I really got a good understanding of the scale of our operations.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, and similar to Kelly, both very good examples of upskilling and reskilling there in terms of not necessarily having come from that kind of engineering background initially, and utilizing the graduate apprenticeship to then end up in those kind of positions, which, yeah, is really good to hear. Sticking with you, Sarah, and we'll come back to you on this as well, Kelly, as you both, or Kelly, you've been through the graduate apprenticeship and you're currently going through it, Sarah. What was your initial motivation, Sarah, to kind of apply for the graduate apprenticeship?
Okay, so while working for site assurance, I was tasked with looking into replacing our front doors on site, our new main entrance doors for 3 of our buildings, and I took this to our Dragon's Den process to secure funding, and I was delighted when I successfully secured the funding for the project. But I was so disappointed when I had to hand it over to engineering and my involvement ended. It showed me that I needed more than what I was getting from my role, and I really wanted to be involved in projects that made a difference to the site and to our company. My view into Diageo engineering was then extended because I was tasked with doing an audit on some of Global Engineering's documentation, and it gave me the chance to have a chat with Kelly and hear a bit about her role and sort of global engineering processes. And that really inspired me. I had never been interested in STEM subjects, and I just didn't think I was capable of actually understanding the topics that were within the engineering discipline. So I challenged that thought and I decided to apply to the Open University initially to do a STEM access course. And I found that not only was I capable of it, I absolutely loved it. And I had to try and find a way to move career essentially from site assurance into engineering. And with that new sort of confidence and with the backing of my family, I applied for this role.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Especially, I think we hear that so often that you maybe didn't find those subjects, or that you kind of gravitated toward those subjects maybe at school or in kind of traditional education, but actually seeing it in that workplace environment and almost kind of getting the bug for it by doing it, as opposed to just learning about it, and then you can sort of reverse engineer that into then, like you say, the Open University course and the GA program as well.
Absolutely.
And Kelly, if I can ask the same as of you.
Yeah, Dan, so thanks. So for me, why did I choose a graduate apprenticeship? So again, I wanted to progress as a mechanical engineer without stepping away from my full-time role that within the engineering environment, and the graduate apprenticeship allowed me to do that. It allowed me to continue working while studying and learning to work towards that degree. It allowed me to earn the degree while applying the learning directly into real engineering projects, and it supported me in my development journey through an accelerated programme, building my confidence, that technical capability. And I suppose it was a bit of a change coming from an architect background into an operations environment, and this opportunity becoming available from our HR as part of the pilot at the time. So graduate apprentices were very new and unique. We were starting out on that journey, and I was one of the first from Diageo at the time who had the opportunity to come here. So for me, it was progressing as the mechanical engineer, getting that qualification to support.
Yeah, and it sounds like one of the key things there, Kelly, would have been that opportunity to not have to kind of halt your career progression at the same time, because I suppose without the graduate apprenticeships, your options would have been either full-time or part-time study, which then I suppose impacts on your ability to either continue working at Diageo or continue progressing at the same rate.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. It would have meant I would have had to step away from the full-time employment to become a full-time undergraduate on a programme. So being able to work while learning and studying at the same time was a massive benefit for me.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Kelly. And then sticking with you, Kelly, because I suppose this is maybe where your experiences slightly diverge in that Kelly, yourself, and a few others across Heriot-Watt are quite kind of uniquely placed in that we have some other people like yourself who've done the graduate apprenticeship and now manage and are involved in the graduate apprenticeship scheme within their own employers. So from Diageo's perspective then, with your kind of employer hat on, what are the key drivers and sort of reasons for the business utilising graduate apprenticeships, whether that's to recruit people or for someone like Sarah who was kind of already within the business?
Yeah, so for us, for Diageo, graduate apprentices let us grow talent from the ground up. So a strong grassroots talent pipeline. Apprentices learn the theory as well as the Diageo way of working, both in parallel. So it's not a sequential step. And it really strengthens our talent pipeline. It brings that fresh thinking. It supports our long-term retention. So going back to what you said earlier, Dan, that retention piece is really important for us. When you bring them in early, you take them on the journey as part of the degree programme with the Diageo way of working. We see that there's a benefit in holding on to people longer term when they've been part of that 4-year programme and are integrated into the function.
And I suppose sticking with that theme then, from more of a kind of programme content and academic perspective, what was it about the engineering, design and manufacture programme that really sort of lends itself to the business?
So going back to both what yourself and Odin said, that blended model really works. So the 20% at university, the 1 day a week day release, the 80% in the workplace. So you're learning the theory, you're bringing it back into a real life environment where the apprentices are applying that theory straight into live packaging and automation projects for me and my team, as well as the business. It's supporting their development in a fast-paced, relevant and valuable attribute that they're bringing from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose on what you've just described there, then what benefits have you seen the apprentices bring to the business through the programme?
Yeah, so genuinely they develop a lot quicker. They're bringing that fresh ideas. There's a different level of confidence, the skills and the techniques that they're learning from the courses that they're attending at university as part of the learning outcomes. They're bringing all of that back into the workplace. Equally, they're taking ownership early on. Their curiosity lifts that team culture. They're asking lots of questions, and genuinely, I see I've got two apprentices in second year and Sarah in first year, and all 3 of them are already starting to become well-rounded engineers through that process, and I think that they will become well-rounded engineers much faster than going through that traditional route. Dan.
But that's a particularly really interesting point, Kelly, because we had an event yesterday and we were talking about this with the attendees, in that I think sometimes there's a perception in industry that it's going to take 4 years before the apprentices are productive for the business. But actually what you're saying is almost kind of the reverse, that you're getting someone in that can contribute, to your mind, quicker than if you were to recruit a traditional graduate who just had the kind of academic experience up to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So like coming in and doing that blended approach. So Sarah here on the call is already working on live projects. She's shadowing, she's leading, she's getting that support. Someone who comes after they've done their degree, they're having to learn all of the Diageo ways of working on 4 years and day one if they then land in a role immediately after. Having the role set up from day one as a graduate apprentice gives them that opportunity to be learning and earning and becoming part of the integral Diageo team and ways of working done.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. And then last thing on that particular thread then, in terms of new hires versus upskilling, are there kind of differences that you notice in terms of the kind of benefits that they're bringing and the benefits to the business?
Absolutely. So for us, I think the capability that they bring on day one is incredible. They're developing fast. As I've said, they're learning on real projects, they're bringing the new ideas, the fresh thinking, the confidence. And I think the piece that so going back to, apologies because I went off piece a little bit, right? So yes, they're both important, but they're different. They're bringing that fresh thinking, the challenge on how we do things. The upskilling the employees brings that deep knowledge of the site and our processes, and together we're creating that balance of experience and the new ideas. So that's the bit for us.
Yeah, kind of different approaches, but benefits to each, and sort of different considerations, I suppose, in terms of who's able to upskill and sort of how you go about that recruitment piece. Okay, Sarah, to come back to you, in terms of your kind of current role and sort of balancing the work side of things and the academic side of things, how does that work for yourself?
So my current role is graduate apprentice engineer within the packaging transformation team. Our work starts at the front end of projects. We provide budgets to project engineers and to site, and to highlight any sort of risks and opportunities that we can see. So far, I've mostly been involved in brand change and innovation projects, and I'm just really enjoying them. I find balancing the work and study challenging, but so rewarding. I am a mum to 2 little boys as well, so I am very, very used to juggling my priorities. So yeah, make it work, but it's definitely challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose on that theme then, and Kelly having been through the graduate apprenticeship will really help with this as well. But what support and encouragement do you get from Diageo in order to kind of go through the graduate apprenticeship scheme?
Okay, I have had a huge amount of support from Diageo in quite a few different ways. Particularly Kelly and my work-based mentor Michael have been really supportive. I feel like they really want me to do well, and that sort of pushes me to do my best and to really try my hardest at everything. I've also got the bonus that I've got the 2 GAs in the year ahead of me who have just become quite good friends, and they're really supportive, and it's a nice environment to work in. Diageo and Kelly in particular are also really supportive and with flexibility. And it allows me to sort of do my best in this role, but without sacrificing my family commitments or taking more time than is necessary for it. My biggest driving force in life is to show my children what you can do with hard work. So it is really, really, it's important to me to have that flexibility and the support to enable me to do that for them.
Yeah, that's a great message there, Sarah. And I think as well, to touch on what you said about having the other apprentices there as support, and that's something that we see kind of across all employers, is where you've got that cohort set up, or even if it's just one other individual going through the same process, someone that kind of lives and breathes that apprenticeship program with you and understands the sort of nuances to it, and equally how you take that back into the business as well. That's something that we're aware can really be a great help to any given apprentice. And then Kelly, I suppose from the employer side then on that, in terms of supporting your apprentices, what kind of practices or structures would you say an employer would need to have in place in order to best support their apprentices?
Yeah, so there are a few key essentials, Dan, and the most important one is that strong mentorship. So the work-based mentor and the line manager, that piece is fundamental in the foundation to supporting the GA programme. We need to make sure that there are clear pathways to support the development of the graduate apprentice, as well as a structured exposure. So we're trying to develop them, we're trying to show them what else is available, the partnership and collaboration across the different functions within the business. You need to provide that structured exposure to support their confidence building, their development. You need to provide them with real meaningful work. So the work-based learning activities that we tie to the university curriculum to allow them to achieve their learning outcomes. They need to understand why they're applying the theory, the purpose of what they're learning at university, and how that then relates to the project. So you need to be able to give them work that is meaningful, that builds that connection. The next point is the study time. So as much as you have got 20% at university and we are giving them work-based projects to achieve the learning outcome, there is also lots of additional tasks that need to be done, homework, exercising and activities, and we need to be able to give them protected time to allow them to work through that study material, work through the additional homework activities that they get, and genuinely see that there is a benefit of doing that. We need to make sure that we're providing a culture where they can openly ask questions that allow them to be curious and encourage that, because that's genuinely where the learning and the growth comes from, is the understanding.
Yes, it sounds like it's a combination of giving them that support and, like you say, that kind of work type assignments that can give them that real purpose and allow them to make an impact, but equally understanding that need for flexibility, and being able to kind of help them through that balancing act, I suppose, between the university, like you say, with the protected time, but equally them being in a productive role that has a real business impact.
Yeah, absolutely. When all of these things are in place, the genuine development and inspiration that you see coming through from the apprentices, they really thrive in that environment when there's the balance that's created.
Definitely. Right, I'm just conscious of time and leaving enough time for audience questions, but I'll just finish with a couple of questions here. On the theme then, Sarah, like we were discussing around that kind of impactful work and being a kind of productive member of the business, how do you find you're able to apply your learning in the workplace, and do you have any examples of that?
Yeah, so I often find ways to apply my learning in the workplace, and it's been really useful for my work-based learning projects. I find the GA way of learning is really effective for me. I don't always feel like the theory clicks as I'm learning it in university, but when I put it into context at work, it often does click. The best example that I have at the moment is my first year project. So I needed to design, build and test a component demonstrating my theory learning at university. I designed and made my own spherical bottle top using an existing bottle cork and a wooden overclosure, which I shaped on a wood turning lathe. I was able to apply my learning by exploring the tests that Diageo carries out on this type of component, and I was able to have my design tested in Diageo labs, and then I carried out my own testing in the university as well. So I am definitely able to apply it at work.
Thanks, Sarah. And that's a good example of it's not just something that you're doing in isolation to evidence those work-based learning requirements. It's actually something that brings real kind of benefit to the business and impact within your day-to-day kind of working role.
Yeah.
Right, last couple of questions for me then before we wrap up. Sarah, just to stick with you, how would you sum up your GA experience so far, and how do you think it will kind of help your career moving forward?
The GA experience has been genuinely life-changing for me. It's completely changed how I see myself. The decision to challenge myself at a stage in life where I had already tried so many different careers was something that I previously thought just was out of my reach, has given me such a huge confidence boost. I am happier at work than I have ever been, with really a feeling that there are no limits on where I can go and what I can do. The GA has given me so much confidence just to look for further opportunities and to progress. And yeah, I really see a good path for myself now.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. And I don't think there's really anything to add to that, is there? That's really resoundingly positive. And on that theme, I'll just stick with you, Sarah, and then I'll go to you, Kelly, because it's the same question, but just from different perspectives. So from an employee's perspective, Sarah, what advice would you give to someone that's thinking about undertaking the graduate apprenticeship?
I would say just don't doubt yourself. Be ready to work hard and commit to your learning and give it your all. The more that you put in, the more you get out. And I just wish that I'd done it sooner. That's all.
Great, thanks, Sarah. And then same to you, Kelly, but from an employer's perspective?
Yeah, so the advice that I would give is you need to start with a clear path and make sure that there's good support in place from a manager and mentor perspective. There's real long-term investment. You need to see that that's an opportunity and it's going to support your business unit, your business overall. You need to give the apprentices purpose. You need to give them meaningful work and the opportunity for exposure, to have that voice, to have the seat at the table, to feel valued. And you need to equip the managers and the mentors with the appropriate tools to enable them to support the graduate apprentice in the workplace. If we do all of that, the return is huge in capability and the innovation and the engagement and the culture that it builds.
Perfect. Well, thank you both very much, Kelly, Sarah. That was brilliant insight to get, especially having both perspectives from each of you there, someone currently going through the graduate apprenticeship and someone that's been through it and is involved in kind of managing the graduate apprenticeship scheme at their employer. David, are we over to any further questions now at this point for Kelly and Sarah?
Yep, absolutely. And just to echo your point of Kelly, Sarah, that was some wonderful insight there from both perspectives. That was really, really useful. So thanks again for your time today, for support.